The following BLTV program is brought to you by O'Flaherty Law. Please enjoy.
Greetings of the day, my fellow listeners, and welcome to another edition of Seize Your Business, an affiliation of the Naperville Business Lounge and the Business Lounge Television Network. I'm delighted to have you join us again for another edition, and it's my pleasure to have a fellow Transworld Business Advisor owner, Larry Swanson, of the Downers Grove office. But before we get into him, let me tell you a little bit more about me. I own the Transworld Business Advisors Naperville office. We are just to the west of you. Are we west of you, Larry?
Yes,
we're next door. Yeah. But in any event, Transworld Business Advisors is the largest business brokerage in the world. It is also the fastest growing business brokerage in the world. And we are a global business brokerage. We help we help sellers confidentially sell their businesses and match them with qualified buyers. We also do franchise sales on top of that as well. And it's my delight, as I said before, to have Larry Swanson with us. He owns the store, so to speak, to the east in Downers Grove. Larry, thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to the show.
I'm happy to be here, Steve. It's always good to talk to you.
It always is, yes. We're going to do a little bit of your background here. You've been a Transworld Business Advisor owner since when?
Since 2017.
So now you're in your fourth year. So, and I'm sure you've interacted with quite a few buyers and quite a few sellers. I'm sure you'll have some best practices to share with us in a moment. But prior to 2017, tell us a little bit about your professional background and how it led up to you buying your Transworld Business Advisor franchise.
Okay. I think, like you, I've been in the corporate world for many, many years, 30 plus years. I worked in a variety of roles, primarily for a real estate development company owned by Sam Zell. I worked in the shopping center company. I ran the leasing department, so I read more leases probably than anybody on the planet. Also was in their finance and mergers and acquisitions for their office building company and their residential property company. So it was nice. I had a wide variety of roles there. I'm a CPA, so also, ran an accounting department for a couple of their companies. I was a CIO of a couple of companies, have a good, strong technology background, CFO for a online lending company. So a variety of different corporate jobs, but mostly in the finance and acquisition side. So once I started looking for something for myself, Transworld was just a perfect fit for me, and my background really lended itself to this type of a business.
Sounds like it did. You had a lot of variety of roles in the executive corporate world that I think really assists what you and I do to help business owners sell and get the qualified buyers to the table. So you probably have interacted with hundreds of sellers, not to say you got everyone listed, but you've interacted with quite a few, and you've actually interviewed quite a few buyers. What would you say are the best practices with your selling clients that gets them ready to sell? What would you say are like 2 or 3 key things that need to be in place for them to be ready to go to market?
I think I wish more sellers followed the key practices. I mean, that's generally the challenge that we have is having sellers that are prepared to sell their business. Quite often, they've never done any exit planning, never done any exit strategy efforts, and they're not really ready to sell their business. The ones that are, and the most important aspects of that are, you got to have good books and records. Your tax returns have to be in good shape. Your P&Ls and your balance sheets need to be up to date and current. Particularly in this COVID timeframe, you need to be able to produce monthly financial statements. All the lenders want to see monthly financial statements now. They want to compare, how's 2019 to 2020? How's 2021 doing to 2020? So if your finances aren't up to date and you can't produce monthly financials, it's very difficult to move forward with buyers, particularly those that need financing because lenders are requiring it. So, that's a big aspect of it. Do you have good books and records? And then, what's the business history been? Do you have good trends? I mean, if your business is tanking, it's very difficult to market that as, a business with a lot of opportunities. So, if you did your exit planning, you'd know that the last year, 2 years before you want to sell your business are the 2 years you need to work the hardest to get the best results you can. You really want to have an upward swing in sales. You want your expenses under control. You don't want any surprises that a buyer is going to have to deal with. So those are the best things that a seller can do. Having a reasonable reason for selling the business. So you're retiring, or you've got, some other fabulous opportunity, or, something other than, well, I'm just sick and tired of my business. That's not what you want to tell buyers. And generally, you can coach the sellers with better stories, but, if they're really prepared to sell, then it's much easier to move forward marketing their business and attracting buyers and, having just more successful transactions in a shorter amount of time. I think what sellers don't realize is, typically can take 30 days or more to get your business ready to be listed and marketed. And after that point, it could be a year or more to sell your businesses. As you know, a year is the average time. I sold a business last week that I've been working on for over 2 years. So, that's not, an unheard of thing. And when you realize that only 20% of all businesses sell, you can understand that, you don't want to think about selling your business when you got 3 months left on your lease, or when you need to move out of state in 2 months. So having sellers that understand those things is really the key thing to finding, transactions that you can successfully complete.
So Larry, in your 4 years of experience, are there any industries or are there any size ranges of the type of selling clients that you either target or have that seem to work out better than others? I mean, what would be your ideal client, I would guess?
Well, I think the bigger the better. We want to always have businesses that have, significant assets and transactions in their business. It's a risk factor. The bigger the business, the lower the risk, the easier it is to sell. Small businesses are tough to sell because the risk is so high. If you're buying a business with $100,000 in sales, if you lose a couple of clients, you could be, underwater. So the better businesses are the bigger businesses.
So if McDonald's called you up, would you take them on and try to sell them, or is that a little too big? What would you say your size range would be?
Well, I don't really think I have a limit right now. I've done very big deals in the corporate world, $billion deals. I was involved in the $56 billion office building sale that Sam Zell did back in 2008. So, I'm pretty familiar with everything it takes to do massive deals. But, I think my target would be, 10 million and under is probably my sweet spot.
Yeah, that seems to be the case. But to your point, both you and I have been involved in multi-billion-dollar transactions. Would you say that essentially the basic tenets of what you need to do to go from offer to close are somewhat the same? There's a procedure you have to follow, and you got to be prepared for that. Is that right?
Yeah, I think the process is the same. The level of involvement of people is very different. So in a billion-dollar deal, there's going to be 10 lawyers on each side. There's going to be CFOs on both sides. There's going to be all kinds of other business executives involved. So it takes longer to get everybody, fully informed and on the same page, and all of the T's crossed and the I's dotted. The one big difference is there's generally not as much emotional energy in the deal. When you're dealing with $1 billion sale, it's just a business deal for all those people. When you're dealing with somebody's personal business, I mean, it's their life's work. It's their pride and joy. It's very emotional for them. And for the buyers, it's their, a lot of times it's their first foray into business ownership, and they're nervous and they're concerned, and they have all kinds of hesitancies. And a lot of times, they don't have advisors that are really effective advisors. And so we have to deal with maybe some accountants that don't understand business transactions, or family members who don't understand the value of a business that they're working on. So the real difference to me is the personal emotions that are involved. And, that's good because it makes it more meaningful for them and for me. But it's bad because it's also a challenge.
I think to your point, I mean, kiddingly, in the more recent time frame, when I describe the process of selling a business, I say it's 25% financial, 25% operational, and 99.9% emotional. Now, I know that adds up to more than 100%, but during the course of the whole process, that emotion is really, really a big factor, particularly if you've owned a small business for a number of years, let's say 10, 20 years, right? That's a little difficult separation, if you will. So I think we have to learn how to deal with that a little bit too, right?
Yeah. At every phase in the process. I've got a deal now that I'm working on, and it's all approved, and the bank has said they're good to go. But the closing date is not till April 15th. But there's no reason to wait that long. And the seller really wants to get out, and the buyers really aren't in a hurry. So I've got to calm down my seller, who doesn't understand why they are waiting. And I got to push my buyers to try and move this up. So, they have different agendas, and you've got to compete with the different sides and try and manage that landmine field as successfully as you can.
To that point too, Larry, I think when we talk about emotions and we talk about the interrelationship of the parties involved, you talk about the buyer and the seller, you got a landlord, and you got the lawyers involved there. I mean, we have to control all of that. I mean, there are a lot of things going on. Like, for example, one of the questions I get asked, you probably do too, what's your relationship like with the landlord? What are the lease provisions? There's so much more to selling a business than just giving the keys, taking money, and have them drive to the next level, right? There's so much you got to be prepared for. Isn't that right, Larry?
Yeah, there's a lot of other parties that can be involved, and they can kill deals. I had a deal recently where the seller's lawyer was just impossible to deal with. She had seemingly a goal to kill the deal, and it took a lot of effort, a lot of going back and forth, and she wouldn't even cooperate with the lender. So lawyers can be a challenge, and I've had other lawyers who are great, understand it, do a great job on it. It's just each one's a different situation, and that's kind of what makes this an interesting job. Is it's never the same. No deal is the same. No process is the same, and you have to adjust every time to the conditions of what you're dealing with.
Yeah, I totally agree with you on that. And to that point a little bit too, I would say, Larry, that effective communication among the parties is critical. Even before you get a letter of intent, even before you start working on the purchase document, I think you need to set the table, at least from the selling clients that you and I most frequently represent, of what could happen down the road, so it's not a surprise. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, and that's something that I struggle with, and the company, my company struggles with all the time. Is it takes a lot of time and effort to keep everybody as informed as they want to be. When you're, running several deals at one time and you're doing marketing and you're doing all kinds of other things. So communication is critical, but very difficult for at least it has been to keep everybody current and understanding what's going on.
Right. Let's go to the other side of the table. You've dealt with probably more buyers than you have selling clients. And if you're like the way I do my practice, you try to prepare the seller for what would be the anticipated buyer questions. Are there things that come up from buyers that, you always remind the seller, even in advance before the buyer comes there? What have you learned from buyers that have assisted you in dealing with your selling clients? Can you maybe highlight one or two of those for us?
You have a wide range of buyers and their professionalism and skill levels, and I think you have to adjust the way you operate to fit what that buyer operates at. So I've had buyers that just don't like doing letters of intent, and they just want to fill out an email and say, "Here's my offer," present it to them. Well, there's obviously a lot of details that you need to fill out in an offer in order for a seller to really move forward with it. And so going through with those type of buyers that, we got this question, we got that question, usually you have to kind of hold their hand and guide them through the process. Whereas other buyers are very professional, have either legal representation or have done acquisitions before and know exactly what they want and how to present it. So, I think I learned something from every buyer and every transaction we go through. Sometimes I really like that, what I've learned, and I'll incorporate it, in all of my deals going forward. Here's a simple example. One of my buyers had presented a nice offer, and my seller's attorney said they wanted to add a sentence to reference the non-disclosure agreement, which the non-disclosure agreement that we have is fairly strong, and it says within itself that it's binding, and it's not terminated based on an LOI. But they said they wanted a sentence in there just saying that the NDA agreement is still in force and effect after this LOI is executed, and even if it expires. So, that's just an extra T to cross and an I to dot. And so I'm going to make sure that all my future LOIs have that sentence in them that says the NDA remains in force and effect beyond this LOI. So every single deal, you learn something new from either the buyers or the sellers, and sometimes it's worth incorporating in your activities going forward, and other times it's just particular to that deal. So, that's why I feel like we just get better and better the longer we do this, and the more deals we do, and we can service our buyers and sellers even better as we go down the road.
There is probably a ton more of Q's and A's that I could have us go through here, but basically it's a good relationship building, getting understanding of what the expectations are. That's critical to our success. But you and I both now have an opportunity to plug our respective Transworld names. So when I opened the broadcast, I talked about us being the largest business brokerage, the fastest growing business brokerage. What I didn't share is that there are about 250 offices worldwide. There's about 600 Larry Swansons and Steve Eschbachs out there. And plus there are 5 of us in the greater Chicagoland office. Now, we as a general rule, we've decided that we'd get together on a regular basis. Transworld has regional and national conferences. So my point being is that you're never just dealing with Larry. You're never just dealing with Steve. We have a whole group of people that we can rely on. So if there's a question we get asked and we don't know the answer, we have somewhere to go. Isn't that right, Larry?
Oh, I think it's a tremendous strength that we have. And, we have weekly meetings with all our Transworld team here in Illinois, and we work together on sharing buyers if we have opportunities that may fit them. We can work with each other on individual questions and challenges that we have. And I think that makes us much stronger as a team. I know I gain a lot of insight from working with you and talking with you and the other buyers in the area too. That's one of our biggest strong points is it's not just me, it's me and all the other people, other agents and other owners in the Northern Illinois area that we work together with, and even outside the area. I mean, I know we meet with the regional group at least once or twice a year, and that includes, Illinois, Wisconsin, Indiana, Michigan, Ohio. And so that Midwest team works together and just makes us that much more effective for our buyers and sellers.
Yeah, there's a benefit of us sharing our experiences with the other colleagues that we have throughout the world. Primarily, there's a little bit of a difference in the upper Midwest than there is in Florida. However, we all build upon each other's experiences and knowledge, and to our benefit and to our clients' benefit as well, both on the buy side and the sell side. I'm going to throw some numbers out here just for the purposes of our audience. Transworld has sold 10,000 businesses or more since their 40-year inception back in 1979. We typically have thousands of listings throughout the system. I know Larry and I each have about a couple dozen each. The reason why I bring all this up is that we are a resource. So if you're a buyer and you're interested in buying any type of business, if you register with us, chances are there might be another opportunity in another nearby state that we can refer you to. Hold on one second. Okay. And also, it's just a resource for you to stay in touch with what's changing in the ever-changing marketplace out there. So with that, anything else you wanted to add, Larry, before we close this?
Just thank you for the opportunity to talk with you, Steve. It's always enjoyable. And, I just wish the best of luck to all of us.
Sounds good. And for those of you in our audience, chances are you'll run into me, you'll run into Larry at our open houses when they return back to the so-called norm. We do hope that'll happen as COVID-19 gets behind us. And I thank you for your interest. There will be plenty more Seize Your Business video casts down the road for us to learn best practices and perhaps get an idea or two about referrals down the road. So thanks again for joining us. And Larry, thank you. And we hope to see you all on the next edition here of Seize Your Business. Thank you.